trophy real estate in the US. This is an asset class that investors have preserved their wealth in the United States for centuries, really. And as we're in late 2024 and people are concerned about a real estate crash, about values being insane in real estate, I'm going to tell you some data or share some data with you that it may change your mind about where real estate is headed, especially as it pertains to real estate that is on the higher end throughout the United States. And as you can see behind me, I'm in a beautiful part of the western half of the United States. I'm in Arizona, and in a little bit, I'm going to show you some crazy homes. But first, it's important to understand what trophy real estate is. It's the top 2% of real estate in any class. So you could have trophy commercial real estate, trophy residential real estate, trophy coastal front real estate, trophy desert real estate, like these houses right here, you can see right here, these are mega money homes. And the really interesting thing about trophy real estate is that it's typically next to a natural feature that is always going to be a natural wonder, something that people will always be attracted to. And if you're a homeowner in this area of the world, in Arizona here, it's magical. It's really incredible place to be because of the natural beauty. I gotta duck through some trees here. So the data that I think you should understand for home buyers in the trophy real estate class is really surprising. So during the pandemic era, the US government printed trillions of dollars worth of money that they injected into the system. And most people were caught flat-footed with real estate, but the wealthier class knew exactly what was going to happen when the government put more money into the system. Typically, when there's more money, there's higher inflation, and that's exactly what happened. So prior to inflation kicking in the US, many of the wealthier class put their money into real estate because they knew hard assets were going to raise in value as inflation increased. And that's why we saw real estate prices pop all throughout the US in all categories, including trophy real estate. Now, trophy real estate, again, is kind of like a hedge to inflation, whereas other real estate, like lower class real estate, say like tract homes in middle economies, middle cities throughout the US, much more susceptible to fluctuations in price because there's not some huge natural feature, or it's not near the ocean, it's not near some beautiful lake. It's very susceptible to the ebbs and flows of the economy. So trophy real estate, where people are hiding their money in, where people are putting large portions of their wealth into, are really hedges on inflation, meaning the more the government prints money, the less value the currency is. So a wealthy individual would rather hold their wealth in real estate, like trophy properties that are going to maintain their wealth because they're near beautiful places like this. Now, the other interesting thing about trophy real estate buyers is that they buy primarily in cash. And the really interesting thing about our time period right now in 2024 is that the US economy is really in the midst of a rollover in demographics, meaning there's an enormous population of baby boomers that have trillions of dollars in retirement money that they're cashing out of right now. And where are they putting that money? They're putting it into real estate. So over the age of 65, over 50% of buyers throughout the US paid in cash for real estate. That's incredible. So you have a lot of property owners throughout the US who are older, who have bought more expensive properties, that are holding their properties in cash. So when someone thinks of a real estate crash coming up, they think real estate prices are going to correct. Those are the places that will correct are usually the places that are financed more, places that people have taken out loans to purchase their homes. Whereas where you have retirees or people that are higher income, they're buying the properties more in cash because they're trying to preserve their wealth, which means they're not going to let go of that home. They're not going to sell their home for pennies on the dollar because, first of all, they may own their home outright in cash, or if the cash is in the home, they're not going to take a huge loss by selling it. So they'll just hold on to it. And they're much more patient owners as well, because they bought with cash. They were ready to put their cash into an asset that will sit there for 5, 10, 20, 30 years or more. Very patient investors who understand the power of leaving their wealth in an asset that is going to hedge against inflation. Another interesting thing is the actual cash buyers during the pandemic era. So nationwide, it was the highest percentage of cash buyers ever in 2023. And that was about 40% I shouldn't say ever, over the past several decades. So 34% of buyers during 2023 paid in cash. And that huge reason for that is because of the enormous amount of money that's been made in the stock market and other assets because of this inflationary period that we have had in the US. And people in general who are wealthier, they're not dumb. They know that they want to preserve the wealth, so they put it into real estate. That's why you had an enormous amount of cash buyers in 2023. Now this year it's dipped a little bit, the total cash buyers throughout the US. But when it comes to luxury homes, so that's these trophy properties, these properties like on the horizon out here that are nestled into these enormous rock faces that have incredible views. Luxury homes right now in 2024, 46% of them are bought with cash. A luxury home is a home typically over $1 million. And that's the official definition. For trophy homes, that's the top 2% of any subcategory of real estate. So basically we're talking the premium real estate, almost half of it is being bought in cash. And that is a sign that investors are choosing to store their money, their wealth in real estate, but it's also a sign that these markets are not going to be susceptible to huge pullbacks because investors are not going to sell for pennies on the dollar, but also they can't be foreclosed on because there's no note against the house. Look at this scary canyon right down here. Definitely don't want to fall down there. So if you're looking at the US and looking at insane real estate prices throughout the Midwest, in California and New York and Florida, it's probably likely that we are going to have a pullback in some markets, and that's because as rates go up, usually prices should come down, and we haven't really seen prices come down. It's very similar to a bond. When you have higher yield, the price of the bond is usually lower, and when you have lower yield, bond goes up. They are inversely correlated. And the same thing typically happens with real estate. When you have higher borrowing costs, typically the price of real estate goes down. When the borrowing costs go down, real estate goes up. And that's exactly what happened during the middle of the pandemic when the Fed lowered interest rates, real estate took off because rates were so low, people could borrow tons of money, but also because people knew inflation was coming, so they just piled into real estate to preserve their wealth. So right now in late 2024, people are waiting for this huge real estate crash, and that may happen in some markets where they're highly leveraged. All the markets I explained earlier where people are taking loans out to purchase these homes in big tract communities that aren't really located next to some huge, natural wonder, some beautiful lake or ocean. But right here, when you have these homes right here, these are the homes that they're going to maintain their value. And they're going to maintain their value because they're next to these beautiful natural rock faces, this beautiful desert, but also it's in the United States. And there's a huge premium for real estate in the United States in the luxury property market. In fact, 18% of all luxury homes in the US in 2024 were bought by foreign buyers. And that's interesting because if you look around the world, most economies worldwide are not doing too well. In fact, to get out of the situations of many of these economies, there's probably gonna be high inflation. So wealthy investors from foreign countries are coming to the US, they're buying luxury homes, and they're sitting on them because they trust the long-term trajectory of the US, and they think putting their money in a luxury trophy home somewhere in the US is going to be a better investment. It's going to be a better way to preserve their wealth instead of putting it into a bank or somewhere where they might lose their money literally or to inflation. So again, there's many markets in the US you want to be careful with right now with a possible price pullback. But when it pertains to luxury markets, trophy properties, you're probably going to be okay. This is a strategy for the wealthy to preserve their money, to preserve their long-term purchasing power, and you're not going to see these huge pullbacks in markets that have incredible nature around them, that have lakes, that have oceans, that have all these incredible features. So if you're an investor in late 2024 and you're considering buying real estate, be cautious with real estate that doesn't sell for a premium, that isn't in a very high-class market. And if you are looking for properties in a trophy market, in a market that has high luxury, high nature value, then you can still find deals, and don't be too worried about the long-term value of these properties. The reality is the United States is still the leader when it comes to a strong economy, when it comes to free markets, and that's likely to continue for a very long time. And the best way to bet on America's long-term growth and safety is to own real estate. And people around the world know that, and people within the United States know that. And they're gonna pay a premium for these properties that are one of a kind, that are throughout the American West, the American East, on islands in Florida and New York, Washington, everywhere. You're gonna have people that will always pay a premium to be in a beautiful, beautiful place. All right, guys, I'm gonna finish this beautiful hike and check out the rest of this insane area and maybe find some cool homes scattered throughout this beautiful desert landscape. All right, see you guys.